A lot of what the media insists you believe is in direct opposition to what you observe. You have to remember this. You have to keep this in the back of your mind. We'll use the term gaslighting for this, which is a good one. It's accurate. But you should remember that they have a particular fondness for trying to get liberals, people on the left, to believe things that no person who's paying attention to what they actually notice and observe could think is true. But what a great way to establish your control over individuals. What a great way to mobilize when you have them pretending that their own senses cannot be trusted, that whatever you tell them is what's most important. And I know this is a little thing. I know this is not some major national security issue, but I thought it was worth taking a break for a second from all these intense COVID issues and everything else to talk about it. There was this kicker at Vanderbilt. You know, I almost went to Vanderbilt. I probably should have. I think I would have had a much better time there. A little bit less of a left wing. I know it's liberal. All these colleges are, but I mean, Amherst College pretends to be a traditional enough New England college, and it's really just commie-ville. I mean, just Marxists running the whole place. It's absurd. The identity politics, diversity obsession, the hatred of America. We're basically Hitler because of our foreign policy, all that stuff. It's all at Amherst. It's all there. So I would hope that Vanderbilt, I don't know, maybe it's just as bad now. Anyway, there's this kicker, Sarah Fuller, and she was the first, I don't even know. I'm just going to tell you this, and people get mad at me. I don't watch college football. It's not because I went to a small school with a terrible football team, so nobody cares. But I don't understand. If I'm going to watch football, I watch professional football, but that's me. Look, you want to watch college? That's great. I know a lot of people love college football. But this woman, Sarah Fuller, was the first female kicker to take part in a, producer Mark, what was it, a big Pac-5, Big 8 or something? What is it called?
The Power 5, a Power 5 conference.
Power 5. Thank you. Power 5. How good is that as a conference?
The Power 5 means the top 5 conferences in college football.
Okay. So in one of the 5 best conferences. Okay. Which doesn't sound that impressive to me, but I mean, I guess it's pretty good. So I know Vanderbilt's not a particularly good school for football. That I do know. And they lost the game, I think, 40-something to nothing. I mean, it was not a good, not a good moment. So we're supposed to celebrate this. Now, I watched the video of the kick, and I'm not a huge football fan, but I know enough about football. I watched the video of the kick, and the truth is that you could have picked a person at random, an able-bodied male at random from the crowd, who I think would have kicked it further. That's just fair. And I don't mean a person who is a football player or even an athlete. I think if you picked your average, 45-year-old dad with a little bit of a beer belly who loves football, I think he would have kicked it further. Now, this isn't a surprise to me at all, because I also understand that male and female biology, physicality, strength, bone density, all of these things are different. We are different. We are biologically distinct. I know the left wants to try to erase these things. I know the left wants to pretend that gender is just an idea. It's a social construct. This is lunacy, but it's necessary for a lot of reasons. I mean, the Marxists have always waged war on the idea of a traditional family, and they've waged war on the idea of the separation of genders and also the bond between the genders, that men and women. I mean, if you go into the early Marxist literature, first of all, a lot of these guys conducted their own lives in horrible fashion, to start with that. But they don't like the idea of a close familial bond, because as much as I may be a patriot, as much as I may love the state, I love my family more. And that's unacceptable to a radical Marxist. No, that you can't have a closer bond with your family or your spouse than you do with the state. So they've been waging this long-term war on gender and on family, and it's not new. But also, they like to use the difference between the sexes as though there's almost a kind of wealth inequality that has to be addressed, right? Any inequality must be addressed by the state. That's I guess you could call it a value. It's a concept, certainly, within Marxism, right? Any inequality must be addressed. Men and women are not, in the aggregate, there's some exceptions to this. And I know people like to say, oh, but I know this woman who, I mean, if you're an able-bodied, 200-pound, 6-foot-tall male, or even, whatever, 5'10", 100. I think the average American male is like 5'10", 180 pounds, something like that. Or maybe, I don't know, I'm making that up. But you would, if you have some basic athletic skills, be able to play female college athletics pretty easily, right? That's just the fact. I mean, I know everyone go, oh, no, that's terrible. I remember, men's and women's crew, for example. I rode crew in college. And that's very straightforward. It's like track. I mean, you see the differences in the times. You see the differences in the boat speed. And, if you're a decent high school rower for a man, you would be a, top D1 female rower just based on times. Okay, this is, again, objective reality. It's not making a judgment. I think women's sports are great. Women's tennis is amazing. Women's volleyball is fun to watch. I don't like the WNBA very much, but it doesn't matter, right? I think it's great. I think women should play sports. I'm all in favor of that. That's fine. And I think that great female athletes should be celebrated as great female athletes. But they are not male athletes. And this idea that we're going to be able to combine these two things and everything's going to be normal is crazy. And what I was starting out with here by telling you that we're supposed to not observe what is so obvious and observable, when you have a woman who kicks the ball maybe 30 yards, and we're all supposed to stand up and clap for this, and this became some big thing in the media. Oh, the first ever woman to play okay, she had one kick, and it wasn't very good, but we're all supposed to stand and clap? I mean, you could put me in a World Cup match and give me a penalty kick, and believe it or not, I'd probably score. Penalty kicks, not very hard to score a penalty kick, and I played a lot of soccer growing up. That doesn't mean I'm a great soccer player. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, these days I could barely move up and down the field. So why do we have to go through this? Why can't we just be honest and objective here, which is that they allowed a woman to play in a game where clearly she was not particularly additive? Is that people can't handle this? Why? The broader theme here, or the more important takeaway from this, because again, I don't even really care about college football, and so it's not like I have some issue with that. But the bigger theme that I wanted to get to is merely that don't trust people who won't let you trust yourself. Don't listen to the media when they tell you that what you see and what you know to be true is not true. You can be open to persuasion, but don't allow yourself to be browbeaten. Don't allow yourself to be coerced or pushed into rejecting things that you can tell are true or to accepting things that you know are false. Men are not women, and women are not men, for example. You can get in trouble for saying that on social media. You can get in trouble now just socially in general in a whole lot of places. I don't even know how this works out in a workplace situation now. I mean, if you say that, is that considered offensive, or who knows? But it's crazy that anybody has a problem with that. It's a statement of the most objective of facts. It's like saying 2 + 2 = 4. No, the mainstream media wants you to say it's 5. And if you won't say it's 5 or 0.3 or a million, there's something wrong with you. You're a bad person. If you won't stand and cheer and clap for a woman who played in a football game for kicking the football one time, not well, there's something wrong with you. You're a misogynist. You're a bad person. There's a real war on objective reality that the liberal media and the left is engaged in, because if there is no objective reality, it's all then just a question of what they're able to control, what they're able to make you do. It doesn't matter what the results are. It doesn't matter how it all plays out. They just get to tell you, and your response is, yes, I will do that thing because you tell me to. If you read memoirs of some of the great dissidents in totalitarian states, I mean, Solzhenitsyn is my favorite from within the Soviet Union, but there are many others. You'll see that this is one of the hallmarks of a totalitarian system, that you accept as truth something that you objectively know is false. The moment that they break you down in that way, the moment that all of a sudden you find yourself saying, well, I don't see it that way, and I know that that's not true, but they're all saying it, so it must be. Now, then they've got you. Then you'll say, yeah, school lockdowns are a good idea. Yeah, your mask protects you and my mask protects me. Or is it just now my mask protects you? I can't remember. But I'll forget about what Fauci used to say. I'll forget about these studies that come out that question all of this. I'll forget about the old pandemic playbooks that all these same public health bureaucrats were signing off on for decades that said that what we're doing now is crazy. I forget all of it. That's right, friends. All you have to do for the left to embrace you and for you to be a member in good standing is to say that a female football kicker who shanks the ball 30 yards and gives it to the other team on their 40-yard line is some huge step forward for women. Just sign on to that. Just start with that. And everything else will follow. With travel restrictions being what they are right now and all the concern out there because of this pandemic, I know that it's a tough time. You can't reach out and spend time with loved ones the way you used to, especially during this holiday period. It's hit my family. But one thing I'll tell you is you can send an amazing gift to brighten up your family's holidays, just like I've done with Bloomsy Box. That's right. I'm sending flowers to family members that I can't see during this holiday period through Bloomsy Box, and it's so amazing and convenient. These are incredible flowers. I'm sending them to my girlfriend and her family. In fact, I'm sending them every month because I have a Bloomsy Box subscription. Bloomsy Box are simply better blooms. When you see the look on someone's face when they receive them, it makes it all worthwhile. And I love the incredible prices and the huge selection of artisan-designed arrangements. No hidden fees, no endless upsells, and free shipping along with my subscription. This is all you have to do. Get a special discount now. Go to bloomsybox.com and enter Buck to get 15% off and free shipping. That's right. Enter Buck for 15% off and free shipping at bloomsybox.com. That's BLOOMSY box.com.
I guess if you had the other team just refused to acknowledge it and you had half the league say, we're not sure it's true, you'd have a similar controversy. But when that starts happening, the game itself breaks down, right? And in this case, it's not a game, it's our democracy. Our democracy starts falling apart. Imagine if going forward, every single election is treated this way at every level. Imagine if Democrats start acting this way.
Is that part of the danger that he's broken the seal on that idea?
That is the concern that I think we all have. It's Joe Biden's going to be the next president. Kamala Harris is going to be the next vice president. But we don't want to get into a pattern where we just are willing to throw out what we've agreed to previously, including our constitutional structure, just because we find it politically expedient.
Oh, gee, I'm so glad we have Obama to lecture us now on the threat to our democracy because of legitimate lawsuits being filed. And now, look, when I say legitimate, I do believe that there's merit behind the lawsuits, but they're entirely legal and within the system. Right? Nothing that the Trump team has done so far, nothing that is being pushed right now is destroying or undermining the system. It is working within it. If they surrounded the courthouse with armed men and said, hey, we're now going to give you a declaration from the judge because the judge is our hostage, right? Well, that obviously would be Criminal Terrorist Act, but I'm just saying that's outside the system. Sending in lawyers to bring lawsuits, that is within the system. And Obama and all these Democrats right now that are lecturing us about the good faith need to accept, for Trump to accept the loss, that's what they're saying. It's like they all assume that we're going to forget about the 4 years of a Trump presidency when they didn't just call him a Russian asset sometimes or once in a while. It wasn't whispered in certain, areas of media. This was the main opposition to President Trump for, 3 of his 4 years. The 4th year was really about COVID and they dropped the Russia stuff more. But for 3 years, it was all Russia all the time. And it was all a lie. They were saying that the president of the United States not only cheated in an election, but was a traitor. He betrayed his country, right? You could cheat in an election and think that you're still doing, if you really believed that you were the best candidate or something, I'm just saying you could delude yourself into thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't have cheated but I'm still going to do my best for my country, right? There's a difference between I want to be the president so badly that I'm going to stuff a ballot box and I'm working for the Chinese as a effectively a Manchurian candidate, or the Russians as a Manchurian candidate against my own people in the United States, right? That's a whole other level. And that's where we were with the Democrats. And it was all based on lies. There was no reason to believe what they were saying. It was based on the dossier, which would be it's really the equivalent of paying somebody to go around the internet and scrape comment sections for whatever you can about a famous person, a public person, and then present it to the FBI and say, look at all my amazing intel. You guys should start some FISA. And they did. And the media went with this, and they pretended that it was legitimate. They acted like this was somehow a good thing. That they were, well, as we know, they completely rejected the notion that Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton, which in retrospect is just silly. I mean, Hillary was not likable. Hillary was not an inspiring candidate. She was very corrupt. We all know this. She did all the things that our side, when people on the right were saying lock her up and all this stuff, all the things that we claimed Hillary Clinton did with those emails turned out to, in the main, be accurate, right? That there were classified emails. She did set up a homebrew server. They destroyed evidence to try to cover this whole thing up. That was all real. And yet they still acted like there's no way that Donald Trump could have, in a fair election, defeated Hillary Clinton. And now they want to lecture us about the damage done to our democracy. And I'm just telling you, be prepared for this. It wasn't really presented to the American people this way. But what we're seeing, and you just look at all the people that are coming back, and this is a third Obama term. They've managed to, and that's really the way that Biden was the pick all along for them, because he is the Democrat establishment pick for this. It didn't matter who he was, but he was the vessel for a third term of Obamaism. And it was interesting. Here's what Obama said about a third term. Play 9.
People would ask me, knowing what you know now, do you wish like you had a third term? And I used to say, you know what? If I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats, looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony, I'd be fine with that, because I found the work fascinating. I mean, I write about the even on my worst days, I found puzzling out, these big, complicated, difficult issues, especially if you were working with some great people, to be professionally really satisfying.
And he wrote, what is it, an almost 800-page autobiography now? How many autobiographies is this guy going to write? I think he's going to set a record for autobiographies. But don't pay any attention to that. He's so amazing. There could never be enough Obama autobiographies. But more importantly for our discussion right now, you notice that he said that he would like it. He likes the idea of there being an administration that would come in where he could kind of have a mouthpiece deliver the lines that he wants it to deliver. And who is that mouthpiece? Joe Biden. Right. That's what you're going to see. You'll have so many people who are Obama's consultants and advisors. Look, Jen Psaki was a State Department spokesperson. Now she's going to be White House press secretary. Right. It's as though people are in the Obama administration, the second Obama administration, they're now getting their promotions for a third Obama administration. That's what's going to be happening. Bernie Sanders and the radical left, they're not going to be running the apparatus openly. Behind the scenes, they'll be pushing a lot of the agenda. But if you're going to fool 50% or so of the American people into thinking you're not a bunch of radical Marxist socialists, what do? Bring in the Democrat establishment. Oh, look, we know what Joe Biden's all about because he's been around forever. He couldn't be pushing any radical policies. That's going to be the pitch. But it is going to be like Obama term 3, assuming that Biden doesn't actually get a very unhappy surprise with these lawsuits. I recently got a crash course in home title theft. And look, this is a crime that you need to avoid because it comes after your biggest asset, your home. Here's how it works. The bad guys, cyber thieves, they find your home's title online. Then they use a quitclaim deed to kick you off, put themselves on, and they take out loans against your home's equity. You often won't find out about this until you receive a payment notice in the mail, perhaps even a foreclosure notice. You have to go with the experts I trust at Home Title Lock. All you have to do is go to HomeTitleLock.com, use the promo code RADIO. That will get you 30 free days of protection. You can also check online at that site to see if you're a victim of this crime and don't even know it. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code RADIO for 30 free days of protection. And like I said, you can check at HomeTitleLock.com to see if you're a victim of this crime and don't even know it. Don't wait. Take action today. Protect your most valuable asset, your home, with Home Title Lock.
I think, I would urge the president, I would urge Republicans to redirect their post-election approach here. We both have short-term and long-term challenges if we don't. I think short-term we run the risk of alienating voters for our Senate race that is coming upon us for Senator Loeffler and Senator Perdue, and we need them. As a Republican, I want them in that Senate. And long-term, I think we hurt the brand of our Republican Party, which is certainly bigger than one person long-term. And we've got an opportunity to learn from some important lessons here. I think as a Republican, I've learned that an outsider and change agent can be effective in D.C., but I've also learned that communicating is important. I think we want to see, as Americans, we need to see leaders that inspire us and not talk down. I think that's a lesson as Republicans we can learn. I think we can also learn to tackle some of the big issues like immigration, like health care, and not just talk about the things we don't like, but really put some big plans on the table moving forward. Lessons to be learned.
Gee. Thanks, Georgia Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan. Appreciate the lecture right now, but let's remember that you are a senior Republican official in a state that should, by all accounts, have gone red and did not. Isn't that interesting? And there's an additional slew of lawsuits underway in Georgia. Here's the problem you have in Georgia. And you see this playing out in other tight states where there are election irregularities. They did a recount, but the recount is just looking at the number of votes that they've put in the vote piles and saying, did we count those votes properly? But what you really need is an audit of how did those votes get into those piles of votes to be counted? Was it legal? And a necessary step in that process would be comparing the signatures. Right? They compared my signature here in New York City. I remember I sat there, I signed, they had my other signature, and they looked at it and they said, okay, you're allowed to vote now. So why would they have that as an election protection in New York, but not in Georgia? Now, I understand that states vary by what they mandate, but they were supposed to have signatures in Georgia too. So did they match the signatures or did they just wave them all in? A bigger part of the problem here, and this is what Pelosi and all the Democrats knew, is if you remove all safeguards from an election, the aggregate benefit would be, without even having a clear conspiracy, the aggregate benefit from removing all election safeguards would be to Democrats, which is a harder thing to prove, which I think is really what we're dealing with right now. There are all these different states where they got rid of signature match. They, illegally, on the word of the governor or the lieutenant governor or the secretary of state, change voting regulations around to take votes that came in even later. They weren't time stamped, all these different shifts. But the clock is ticking. And if they don't prove, for example, here's what we need. We need to show that in Nevada or Arizona, I know Arizona is just certified. I know Georgia has certified. These states have all certified their election totals. Not all the states have, but the states that have certified recently. If we looked and we saw that there were thousands of dead people who voted in Arizona, all we need is that. And then we can turn around and say, hey, guys, 1,200 people voted who were dead in Arizona. We got to do this in all these other states, too. We got to see how many. But we need that. We need that proof. We need that number to fight back in this public relations battle that's going on right now. Because otherwise, he just keeps being, why won't you concede? Why won't you concede? Look at all the losses. Look at all the losses. There's no fraud. And people start to lose their will to fight. They lose their will. And what I think is so funny is that the liberal analysis of this is that no one will go against Trump. Meanwhile, why, now is a great time to go against Trump if you're just doing things for your own self-interest and benefit, right? Why get on the Trump train now? He's about to no longer be president, according to all the libs. So what's the harm? They say, oh, he's going to run the Republican Party for the next 4 years in exile. Maybe. We'll see. But I think it's interesting that their analysis is that at this juncture, people are pushing for answers and don't want the continuation of what we've seen up to this point from the media, which is just covering it in a way where you're a conspiracy theorist and a lunatic if you actually want to find out where all these votes went and what really happened. Here's an MSNBC analyst talking about how it's the only reason we want to get answers here is because we're all afraid of Trump. Play 6.
It is remarkable to me at this point, so far after the election, that we haven't seen more. I did think by this point we would have seen more elected officials congratulate Joe Biden, describe him as the president-elect. And it is remarkable. I mean, I know it's been one of the themes of the last 3.5 years of, Donald Trump controlling the party and dominating the party and people being afraid to cross him. But it really is quite striking that persists this deep into the lame duck, into the period where you would normally, in any normal universe, you would have everyone recognizing Joe Biden as the president-elect and moving forward. It is quite stunning.
It's not a normal universe we're in, my friend. It's COVID-19. It's mail-in balloting. It's changes to voting procedures in states like Pennsylvania that may very well have been unconstitutional. It's not a normal year. So why are we pretending like it is? There's nothing normal about any of this. This is not a normal election. I mean, if we're going to really put this into context, I think we're staying within the prescribed legal processes, sure. But this is not just another presidential election. No, they made massive changes to how votes are cast and counted. And we had to go through a shift from Trump is winning to, oh no, Joe Biden's actually going to be the next president. And we're supposed to think that this is all just fine? We can't even ask for answers. Look, we all understand how this game, if there's concession and everyone calls Joe Biden the president-elect, all that does is increase the pressure on the people that are trying to bring these lawsuits and they're trying to get answers to drop it. Just forget all about it. That's all that really is about. It has no change in anything else. Trump has already agreed that Biden is, getting his briefings and going through his process. They act like there's some huge threat here. Here's Chuck Schumer talking about how we need to rush right away to get Biden nominees through ASAP. Play 7.
Everyone knows that the Senate plays a pivotal role in confirming a new president's cabinet. In the midst of this once-in-a-century crisis, it's imperative the next administration can count on the Senate to confirm its cabinet without delay. So hearings on President-elect Biden's nominees should begin in January, immediately after the Georgia runoff elections. Let me say that again. The Senate should begin hearings on President-elect Biden's nominees in January, immediately after the Georgia Senate elections, so that key cabinet officials can be confirmed on January 20th and soon thereafter, which is traditional for a new president.
Whoa. Settle down, Schumer. Hold on a second. Did Trump have all of his nominees confirmed, or did Democrats drag their feet on that one? You remember this back in 2016? Were they like, Trump gets his picks, everything's fine? Or did they delay? Did they slow it all down? Did they do everything they could to make sure that the process would not go smoothly? I just want everyone to take a little trip down memory lane. Remember, when Republicans don't do what Democrats want, it's obstruction. When Democrats don't do what Republicans want, it's #resist. Resist the fascist. Resist the fascist. Still waiting for Sidney Powell to release the Kraken. I'm not saying I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just saying it hasn't happened yet. So we'll see.
Release the Kraken.
There you go. But why would we treat the Democrats in any way differently from how they treated Trump and the Republican Party in 2016? Does anyone have an answer for that? In fact, I would argue that there must be consequences for the party that believes it's coming into power based upon how it treated the other party when the roles were reversed. Otherwise, what's the incentive for Democrats to do anything other than exactly what they did, which was to obstruct and to slow down and to make it as difficult for Trump as they possibly could, just out of spite? Didn't matter that they were grinding the gears of government with sand in them, right? Trying to just slow everything down and make it as difficult as possible. That was part of their strategy. Okay, well, guess what? Now it's part of our strategy. This is really where we need to understand the concept here of reciprocity, right? Some of you will remember in a movie I reference sometimes on the show, Clear and Present Danger. What do they call it? Operation Reciprocity. And they unleashed the CIA covert action team in South America and the whole, in what was basically in Colombia, the whole thing, right? So, friends, reciprocity in politics is essential, I think, because otherwise people won't even remember. You have to show everyone, when we do what they do, they claim that it's terrible, but they plan on doing it again, and they did it before. Do unto others. Do unto others. Democrats don't adhere to it. We're not going to adhere to it. I'm sorry. In politics, an eye for an eye actually does make a lot of sense. It does not make the whole world blind. I disagree with those who think that we should now bend the knee and be buddy-buddy with the Democrats on policy here. Why? In response to what overture from their side? They still call Trump and his supporters Nazis regularly in the media. They still say all kinds of crazy stuff. Why should we have unilateral ideological disarmament? What's the reason? They don't. Because they want power, right? They want power. And because they're so excited to go around telling everybody about how wonderful everything's going to be as soon as Biden people come back in. All these geniuses of the Biden administration. Here's PBS reporter Yamiche Alcindor, paid in part by your tax dollars. Play 11.
And this is going to be a team with all their life experience, with all their work experience, with all their diversity and their diversity of thought and racial diversity, as well as gender diversity in terms of their skill set. I think that what we see here is a group of women who are going to have to really build back the credibility of the White House. For years now, we've seen a press shop that was adversarial with reporters, that was really about at times lying to reporters, that was about misinformation and spreading disinformation at time. I think they're really going to have to come back and prove, I think in some ways, that this is the White House functions as a way of giving real information, accurate information to the American people.
That's right. You know what's much better for democracy and for America? When the press corps thinks its job is to give a 24/7 back rub to the people in power, which is what they're going to do to Joe Biden. Hey, there it is. I got a little bit of a sore shoulder, and I know I broke my ankle, so it's a little tender down there. It healed, but got the whole thing right. That's what you're gonna be hearing. You're going to be hearing a lot of press people talking about how wonderful and brilliant Joe Biden is. And we're all going to be looking at them like, are you people out of your minds? This guy's a buffoon. A buffoon. But doesn't matter. What does matter is their power. Oh, and then there's some of the actual nominees for this. Let's dig into the latest one here, who's supposed to be running OMB, the Office of Management and Budget. Hold on.
I think you're seeing the reality play out that I'm not sure they're ever going to do it. I don't know that any of them want to ever have an on-camera moment where they're forced to answer this question. I think they're just going to kind of let it happen. Now, there's a couple who have stood out there and said, okay, no, we got to end this farce. Rob Portman put out an op-ed in his local paper, and he named December 8th as that deadline when they have to say, okay, we're done. We've had enough of this. But I think that the perception is that Trump is going to be a force of some kind. I don't think any of us know exactly what that's going to mean or what that's going to look like. But if you're a Republican who's thinking about, okay, I got to win a primary election in a couple of years, do you want that tape out there of you criticizing Donald Trump? It may come back to haunt you. We know how focused he is and how vindictive he can be if there are comments out there like that.
Yeah, everyone's also scared of Trump, or maybe they just want answers about what happened in this election. You know, it could be one or the other. And this whole obey, bow down, and pray before the great Joe Biden. Sorry, it's not going to happen. But I had mentioned to you the OMB pick. Neera Tanden is the person that they're talking about now as a possible. I've actually interviewed Neera Tanden. She's a classic elite lib. And the progressives within the Democrat Party are all saying they're upset about this. She was at the Center for American Progress. I mean, this is exactly, if you were picking people based on the Democrat establishment for these different roles, you're seeing exactly that play out now with the incoming Biden cabinet, alleged incoming cabinet. But it's going to be interesting because Republicans may be in a position, depending on how these Georgia Senate runoffs go, Republicans may be in a position to say no to some of these nominees. And Neera Tanden is a Russia collusion truther. So start with that. Here's somebody, and she's deleted over 1,000 tweets in the last 24 hours because people like me, and I did do a little bit of trolling here, on the substance, right? I troll people on the substance. I troll bad ideas. Politicians I will call dumb. Sometimes I'll call pundits dumb too. Or no, I do call them dumb too. But I try not to make it mean-spirited. But on the substance, like if you were somebody that was saying the president is a Russian asset, you should be embarrassed by that. It was a moronic thing, and it does call into question your intelligence. It should call into question. Anyone who really believes that is just not that smart. I don't care what their SATs, what they say their SATs were. I don't care what they say their IQ is. They're just not that smart. And she was a Russia collusion truther. So now she's had to do a whole lot of scrubbing, although that stuff never really goes away. That's the thing. When you start deleting tweets, then everyone just realizes that they're going to find your cached deleted tweets in the Wayback Machine or whatever, and they use them even more. But be prepared for a lot more of this, because while they're telling us that, people are on the right are bending the knee to Trump because they're so afraid of him and because of where the party is, there were a lot of folks in the Democrat establishment, pretty much all of them, who were Russia collusion truthers. They were a part of that effort. It wasn't just that that's a general Democrat thing. There were individuals who forwarded the conspiracy theory, the unfounded, fake news conspiracy theory that Donald Trump was a traitor for Russia and that's how he won the election. And people who want to be in this next administration, the Biden administration, should be held to account for that. And if that means we're in a position to block their nomination to post based on that alone, I say go for it. Deal with it, libs.